Yeah, but I never. It does make me feel.
All right, folks, we're going to get started. Thank you all for coming. My name is Matt DeBerry. I'm the Director of School Counseling here for the Regional High School District. Joined tonight with Mrs. Megan Schaefer, our lead counselor. We're going to be speaking to you about college. So let me address this right now. Yes, it is cold in here. We did put a call in, ask them to raise the temperature. Apparently the system is not responding. So if at any point you need to do jumping jacks, whatever it is, to get yourself warm, we've got some areas there where you can huddle up close together. But hopefully they get it fixed at some point and we get some warmth in here. Okay, so here's the goal for tonight. We want to speak to you about a timeline that you as a family and you as students in here are going to embark upon the college search and admissions process, okay? You have already been receiving emails from the department asking you to schedule your junior conference. And in that conference, we're going to go into some specifics about your individual search. Tonight is really just broad strokes about the college search and application process. We're going to talk to you about standardized testing as well, and then kind of some more hints and tips about what to do really to help hone in on what you're looking for in a college or university.
All right, thank you guys for coming out tonight. The first thing I want to say is that your counselor is here to work with you through this entire process. So by no means are you alone in this. So if you're ever feeling like, I'm not sure what the next steps are, we understand it can be overwhelming, and we're just as excited to help you navigate this and kind of find what you're meant to do and where you're meant to go once you leave here. So just know your counselor is here to support you. So a quick overview of what the timeline looks like from now until you graduate from West Morris is you would be having your junior conference right about now, and in those conferences we'll be navigating the process, talking about what the next steps are for you. So overall, the next steps would be registering to take an SAT or ACT and talking in your individual junior conferences about which test is the right one for you. So those would be taken starting in January through the spring, ideally. You're going to start your college visits. A great time to do that would be over spring break. You want to just look ahead. Obviously, kids have different schedules with different activities in athletics, so just plan ahead for those. A lot of times they do get booked up, so you just want to make sure you're being thoughtful as you're looking at applications or to attend visits. And then May through June is going to be IB and AP testing, and then we'll talk to you guys about teachers' letters of rec. So just keep it in the back of your mind that you're going to want to be considering who you might want to ask. And those conversations, we will have a lesson with you guys, the counselors, to talk about teachers and what that process looks like, but just keep it in the back of your mind. Who do you feel like you have a good rapport with? Who do you think can kind of give some insight into who you are as a student in your classroom? We can also talk about as a student outside in an activity or an athletic. Over the summer, we strongly recommend that you're working on your college essay. Counselors can kind of brainstorm with you before you leave for the summer what this process looks like. Again, we will meet with you in the spring and go over college essay topics. That can be a bit intimidating, so it really is nice to work on that over the summer and come in with at least a draft of something that you want to send to colleges. We have something to work with and start prior to the fall. In August, you can start your application. So you should wait until after August 1st, but you can start your applications and begin filling those out. Your counselors will be back in. Obviously, school starts at the end of August, but we're here to kind of connect with you in the beginning of the year. You'll want to touch base with your teachers who are writing your letters of rec, just to check in, see if they need anything for you. And really the fall of your senior year is when you're submitting those applications. Most of our students are submitting their applications to college by that November 1st deadline. Some schools will have an October 15th deadline. Those are typically schools that are in the South, but you will find that a lot of you will be done this time next year with the process. Most of our students definitely wrap up by Thanksgiving. So in 1 year from now, this will all be, hopefully, your applications will be sent out and you'll be looking forward to receiving some acceptances. But again, your counselors will be with you through this process, and it's a really good thing to start with those individual junior conferences because you all have different goals, and we're here to kind of help you with that. So as far as standardized testing, you guys took the PSAT in October of this year. So you should have access to your score results to that. It was emailed to students directly or sent via text message that your scores were available. So you want to make sure you access that report if you have not already done so. If you're having trouble with that, your counselor certainly can help you figure that out during your junior college conference. And like I said, during that conference, some of you may have already sat for an SAT or ACT and had those conversations. If not, we'll be working with you to kind of develop your testing plan. When should you take the SAT or ACT, looking at your pre-ACT test that you took in your sophomore year. So you took that in October of sophomore year. So we'll go over those results with you again, and we'll talk about the differences between the tests. Just one thing to note is the SAT is switching over to digital starting in January. So anyone testing in the spring, the SAT will only be offered digitally, similar to the format that you took the PSAT in. So you guys are familiar with that. So your counselors will help you kind of figure out when to test, when to register, and how to register. AP and IB tests, those will be, like we said, in May. I think IB starts at the very end of April through May. So those are also opportunities that you can share your scores if you do enroll and take those. If you have registered to take those this year, those are scores that you can self-report on your college applications so that colleges can kind of see how you do, should you feel that that would be beneficial. So in the meeting, this is just an example of what a concordance chart looks like versus ACT versus SAT. So you can kind of just see, you can ignore the column about the old SAT because it's no longer out of 2,400. The SAT is out of 1,600 where the ACT is out of 36. The formats of the tests are different, but overall the content is the same. It's just a matter of how the test is broken down. So in your junior conferences, we can look at your pre-ACT results, or if you've taken an ACT, and then compare that with your PSAT and SAT results to kind of help navigate should you look at one test over the other. So that's just an overview of kind of how those scores compare. Test optional, so a lot of schools were going test optional just prior to 2020, but because of the pandemic, a lot of schools switched to test optional, and we are seeing, especially in the last 2 application seasons, that more schools are either deciding that they're indefinitely going to go test optional and they're not going to require that piece for your applications. And then some schools are saying that they want them back. So we do encourage all of our students to sit for an SAT or ACT at least one time to have those scores in case you do find a school that is going to be looking for them. But we have a ton of schools. Fairtest.org has a list of all the schools that never have offered tests optional, rather. Sorry if they're not looking for those scores. So there are plenty of options. If testing gives you, an anxiety or you feel like it doesn't necessarily represent you, there are plenty of schools out there that are no longer requiring it. But we are seeing a trend where some schools are looking to bring it back.
Just a quick note about the test optional piece. Again, like Mrs. Schaefer said, we do advise you to sit at least one time so you do have a score under your belt. Given the temperature in the room right now, this is probably a good time to ask. Anybody consider going to Florida? If you do, they require, throughout the state, they require SAT scores or ACT scores. So be aware of that. And when you're in your junior conference, your counselor will be able to show you where you can look on an individual school's website so you can see their individual testing policy, right? It's going to be different from school to school. They'll show you how you can search for that. And I should have told you this, saw a couple people taking pictures, and that's fine. This is being recorded, so we will post it online in case you want to watch this again for whatever reason, along with the slides so that you will have access to that. To the students, and the students only right now, extra credit points if you can name the actor or movie.
That's John Belushi and National Lampoon's Animal House.
There is hope for that generation. There is hope. Appreciate that. Thank you. So let's talk about college a little bit. So this is one of the things that I always like to show. There's an organization called the National Association of College Admissions Counselors, NACAC for short. And each year for the past 25, 30 years, they have surveyed admissions offices throughout the country, asking them to please rate what they feel is most important in the college application process. There was a break there during the pandemic. This is the first one that they've done since that time. But what has not changed in those 25 to 30 years are these top three, all right? Your grades in your college prep courses, right? The core courses, if you will, meaning the five, right? English, history, math, science, world language. Then your grades in all your courses. Now we're taking into electives. And then right there with all of that is strength of curriculum. Are you taking the most rigorous course load that you can handle? And remember, students, what you can handle is going to be different from what your friend, is challenging for. So please don't compare yourself, but just know that you want to take the most rigorous programming you can do, and while matching interest in your courses for senior year. This is relatively new. I don't know that I've seen this before. Positive character attributes. Are you a good person? I'm guessing that's what it means, right? Are you able to reflect in your application process, in your writings, that you're a good citizen, that you're contributing to the community, whether that's through community service, leadership opportunities, etc. You can see there's a big emphasis on the essay writing. This I want to touch base on very briefly. Students' interest in attending. It used to be called demonstrated interest. Meaning, when that application comes across an admissions officer's desk, have you shown interest in the school prior to that point? Have you gone for a visit? When you go for an official visit, they enter that into their system and they know. Have you contacted a representative at a college fair? That goes into the system and they know. And they will weigh that in as a factor. Does this student really want to go? This comes into play if you're that borderline candidate, you're being compared with another borderline candidate. Which one is genuinely interested in coming to our school? It's probably going to get the edge. But you can see that SAT scores, while again we are advising you, ACT scores to take it, has plummeted, and that is obviously a result of the fact that so many schools made test optional as a result of the pandemic. But again, it's unfortunately the wave is starting to come back where they're going to want you to take it. You're looking for a Christmas gift for me, a clicker. Would be nice. Thank you. Okay, so just want to show you, I put these on here, there's three of them, I'm not going to show you all three, but just wanted to kind of drive home the point a little bit more about what colleges are looking for, what are the discussions like around the admissions tables when it comes time for these colleges and universities to make decisions on your application.
All right, we're on page 61. She's got 5s in 4 APs.
We divide our applicant pool of circa 8,000 candidates into 30-plus geographic regions, and we pair 2 readers to each region.
With Caitlin on her being an inside-the-box kind of gal.
Inside the box.
Inside the box. How many would like to admit? Waitlist. Prior to the conversations we have here as a committee, the group has been significantly reduced to a really, really accomplished group.
He's a top tester who's got all A's.
For varsity sports.
The first chair trumpet in the orchestra.
So you ready for this? 6.4 GPA and a 4 scale.
Could he get all those 5s without AP courses?
Yeah.
But we can't take them all, and so about 1,000 candidates are brought to be heard by the whole committee.
The process of making those decisions is agonizing.
I'm questioning the edge here, however, in all her excellence. How many would like to admit? Okay, she goes to the wait list.
We're fully aware of the fact that the process is, I don't want to say flawed, but is making minute distinctions among extraordinarily talented kids. There are times, honestly, where I'm not sure why I put my hand up or failed to put my hand up. I'm kind of going with my gut here.
The night before her AP chemistry exam, she learned her father had an affair with a 23-year-old prostitute.
How many would like to admit?
He's an AP with a master's, went to Harvard. He's got 3 SIBs at Harvard in classes 09, 11, and 15.
His family financial situation took a huge hit, and they lost their family's store and all other assets.
When a student is particularly poor and are achieving an exceptionally high level, that will be a plus factor for that student.
Dad's alcoholism consuming the family. This is a quote from one of his essays. The alcohol-consuming poor Muslim family down the street with whom no sane member of society would want to interact.
How many would like to admit?
I am cognizant of some lives being changed, literally. On the other hand, yeah, I do feel badly. The months of February and March are simply no fun.
All right, folks, look, from time to time, we will help students with their essays. If I start seeing a number of essays come through the office and talk about prostitution, we're going to have But there are some other things to take away from this, right? You saw the phrase "inside the box," and that kind of, they all shuddered at that. Yeah, let's leave that out. But there was one where they were talking about family situations, right? Alcoholism that they have to deal with, financial situations, all those things. What they're trying to do is get a better picture of you as a person as a whole, right? To marry that to what they're seeing on paper with the transcript. That's why these essays are so important. That's why if you have an opportunity to go to the campus and sit with an admissions representative, speak to them, or do an interview over Zoom, Google Meet, whatever it is at this point in time, you should take advantage of those opportunities. I say this all the time, and I say it because this is what the admissions reps have said to me over the years. They are looking for reasons to accept you, not reasons to deny you. Okay? So really put your best foot forward and help them understand who you are as a person. So just want to give you some statistics here, just some things to look at and think about. Again, vast majority of our students are moving on to a college or university with, as you see last year, 81% of the graduating class moving on to a four-year college or university. Please, thank you. I like to show this. So you can see the number of applications that we process in a given year in the admissions office, right? 1,700 2 years ago, 1,700 the year before, 1,500 last year. And what I like here is this number, right? About 5 to 6 applications per student. I'm going to go into more detail on that in a minute. And the other number I like there is 73% of those applications we are sending out are coming back with a, yeah, we want you here on our campus in the fall. All right, so what that shows me is that we are really being thoughtful in the schools that we are applying to. We're doing our research, and we are putting a large number of our applications towards schools that are targeted for us, meaning we're in a good range, we have a good opportunity to get accepted, and really get the offer that we're looking for. Okay, so I show this to you so you can get an idea of, what is expected at a certain level of college, right? Barron's puts out a ranking of colleges and what they deem it to be their most competitive, right? These are your tops. These are your IBs, the MITs, the Stanfords. And so from Westmore Central High School last year, okay, the average weighted GPA that was accepted at one of those schools was a 5.07. The average accepted SAT was 1370, average accepted 31. Remember those numbers. We'll take a picture and you can go back and look. Could you hit the next one, please? If you kind of go to that next tier of colleges, all right, still competitive, highly competitive, if you will, Boston University, the College of New Jersey, Gettysburg, Ithaca, some really good schools there. You can see, yeah, still 4.55 on that weighted, 1250 on that SAT, 27, still significant, marks that you need to achieve there from an academic standpoint. Next, please. Then if you go to the next level, still some competitive schools, okay, you can see the difference there, right, 4.23, 1,124. I show this to you not to discourage or encourage either way, but just so that you have an idea of if you're looking at a certain tier of school, what you're going to need in order to gain admission there. Please. So we always get the question, where should we apply? And look, that's really dependent upon things that you're looking for. Do you want to go far away from home? Do you want to be close, big school, large school, what part of the country, what's your major, that's a big thing. But over the years, we compiled data, and these are the schools that most often our students have applied to over the past 3 years. Obviously, Rutgers is a big one. Penn State is always big. But what I do like to show you is this. Over the past 3 years, 81% of the students that have applied from West Moore Central have been accepted to Rutgers University. Whereas if you look at the national pool that applies to Rutgers, they're accepting 57%, right? So we're outperforming there. You can see the same thing at Penn State, Delaware, Pittsburgh, the College of New Jersey. So we're doing well at these schools. Clemson is one that has crept up there over the past 3 years. Dabo Sweeney and winning a couple national championships and being competitive will help that. I'm not actually kidding about it. That's 100% serious. We are going to see an uptick in Florida State applications this year. This stuff happens. As these colleges get notoriety on television, it gets into the student's brain, and we see an increase in those applications. Next one, please. And again, these are where we have attended most frequently the past 3 years. You can see a lot of overlaps there between the two charts. Tennessee is a new one. I haven't seen that one in a while, which is nice. See some variety there. Next, please. All right. So again, when we're giving you broad strokes now, when you get into that junior conference, you will go into your individual search and talk a little bit more about that. And Naviance is the tool that we use for that. And Mrs. Schaefer is going to speak to you about that.
Great, so everyone has access, all students have access to the Naviance account empowerment. If you don't have one, we can set it up for you. The first thing I just want to point out for students that might be on the fence about a major or sitting here and have no idea what they want to study, on Naviance, under the careers tab, and we'll show you this in the junior conference, but I just want you to know prior to that meeting, if you wanted to check it out, under the careers tab, there is a career interest profiler, which is an assessment that will give you an overview of college based on your personality of careers that may be a good fit for you. So if you want to take it, takes 15 minutes to complete. It's pretty quick. Last year we had you guys do a skills assessment, so that was a similar assessment but different in the sense that it gave you your top skills based on how you answered the questions, and at the end of that, that also gave you career recommendations. So if you're sitting here and you're kind of like, I'm not sure what you might want to do or pursue, you definitely don't have to decide today or tomorrow by any means, but it's just good to use those resources as a way to kind of consider what your options are. So that careers section is also available to you and super useful. The assessments are all under self-discovery, so just know that those are there. But tonight, right now, I'm going to focus on the college tab that's available to you. So this is all data that comes to you from West Morris Central students. It goes back to before I worked here, so it's over 12 years of data of students who have been applying to these schools, and basically what were their test scores and what was their weighted GPA. So everything you see on Naviance is going to use that weighted GPA, which incorporates those higher level courses that you have taken into account. So it does take rigor into account when you're looking at these schools. So it's really, really useful to look at kids who are sitting in your seat at one point and what their outcome was. It doesn't necessarily tell you by major, but it's really useful in kind of gauging different opportunities our students have had at different institutions. So this is a scattergram. So this is on every college's profile that we've had students apply to. So certainly you can find a school. I challenge you to find one that we haven't had students apply to. So we do have data for a good amount here. So you can see that this is based on this one in particular is based on unweighted GPA and then the SAT. You can change that drop down to ACT should you have taken the ACT and that be your focus. We do have data on that. But you can kind of see what the average is. So the blue circle, that is you as a student. So each account is set up and individualized to you with your information. So your GPAs, your scores, should you have them. If you don't have them, they'll plug in your PSAT scores at this point. But it gives you an idea kind of where do you fall in. So you want to be in good company. You want to be surrounded by the green. So this school, when you're looking at it, you're right there at the average, where the average accepted GPA is and then the average test score is. So that's kind of how you can gauge the competitiveness of the school for you and if it's a good fit academically. We're only looking at GPA and test scores with this. For each school has an overlaps feature. I really love this tool because say you love Marist and you went there and you really like it, it allows you to kind of look at the top 10 applications that students apply to in addition. So if you find a school you really like, it kind of helps progress your search a little bit. If you went to Rutgers and you're like, oh, I really like that, the overlaps really show you other schools that our students have applied to, and it breaks down the information as far as average percent accepted, average GPA, and the average SAT and ACT scores. All right, the college visit. So if you have not already started these, like I said, the spring, now through the spring is a really good time to start planning those trips and looking ahead at where you want to go. Students, I know it can be intimidating. We have college fairs. Our next one will be coming up in March, and that's a really good one for junior students to kind of go interact with the admissions representatives. It's hard to go up and talk to them. I understand that. We see it. It's hard to know where to start. So when you're on these college tours, it's going to be a bit overwhelming, kind of seeing everything, taking all the information in. This is really, you're going there. You're the ones that are going to be living at the school. So really, try to push yourself to ask the question that might be on your mind. There's probably another student in the group thinking the same thing. So it is important to kind of engage in the experience and take the lead as far as asking the questions you want to know, looking around, see if it's a good fit for you. Look at the people, see what they're doing outside of the tour. That's the most informational thing you can do, is actually step onto the campuses if possible.
I think that the college tour process can be very intimidating and overwhelming in a lot of ways, but what I find the most valuable about that process is that you're able to really get in touch with yourself about what you might want from your college experience.
There's so much to do and so much to see. Somebody taking you around this new place, and it's very awesome. But it's very important to stay engaged and listen to what is being said. Sometimes the good thing about the college is not in the beauty or what you see, but what has been kept and you cannot see from the outside.
This is your hour. So talk with the tour guide. Tell them what you're passionate about, what you're interested in studying, or doing for an extracurricular. Because then they'll be able to make the tour more fitted towards you specifically.
As an international student, I find it useful to ask questions about where I'm going to be staying and the kind of community I'm going to be joining.
What is it like to live in a Smith house? What are the rooms like? How do I get a roommate? Will I be given a roommate? How do I choose my house?
I want people to feel free to connect with me on a personal level about the experiences that I've had at Smith, because I'm so passionate about each and every one of them.
Be specific with the questions that you ask and let them tell you whatever you want to know. If it's about a class, ask about what you're going to do in the class. Can you get attention from your professor? What's the ratio, student to professor ratio? Can you get help when you need it?
Sometimes the tour guide might not know everything about the department that you're interested in, and some families may just walk away after the tour, but what I would suggest is definitely feel free to reach out to anyone in the admission office, and if they don't know the answer, they would be really happy to help you and reach out to the department chair or anyone else in the department of your interest.
Explore the area downtown and see what the vibe is like.
We have 4 other colleges around us, so we're a 5-college consortium, and there's so much to do and to learn, and it's your time to explore.
My advice is to make the tour your own.
I think just beyond what's your life here like, what's dorm life here like, what's social life here like, if you want to get specific and really connect with your tour guide, we're open to it. I'm open to it. I would love that.
Letters of recommendation, I touched on this a little bit before. Just to keep in your back of your mind, that's something that you're going to be doing in the spring of this year after May 1st. But just think about who you want to ask. We recommend 2 teachers of letters of rec. Schools do have different requirements, so sometimes they accept none. Sometimes they'll only accept 1. So that's why we recommend just 2 teachers' recommendations will be enough. So you just want to consider your options in that regard. Again, who are you building good relationships with? Who do you feel like knows you and can speak to your characteristics favorably? And your counselor can help you. We will discuss that process with you, but that is going to be an important piece of your application for those who do accept it.
just to go back to the college tour, I'm about a year behind you folks. I have a sophomore daughter where we live in Pennsylvania. And just because of the demands on her schedule, we did a couple tours already this year, saw some colleges, and one that she loves, and she says that's where she's going. Okay, let's see some other ones. Another, we went and just had a bad tour experience. The tour guide wasn't very good, right? And that's going to happen. And I did my best to, afterwards, say, let's just walk around on our own, you know, see the cafeteria, try to talk to some folks, and it left her with a little bit of a better taste in her mouth, but it's certainly, unfortunately, it wasn't enough to overcome the tour. So just keep that in mind. Unfortunately, a lot of it is dependent on the tour guide, but also how they organize things. We went to another school, very small school, one that I didn't think she would have any interest in. But afterwards, she really connected with the tour guide, and a few days later she received a handwritten note in the mail from the tour guide with her cell phone number and email, and so she has been in contact with this person, and it was just a really brilliant, nice, small touch on the admissions office part. That alone kind of tells you something a little bit about that school, right? About how they want to attract students and what they'll do for those students once they're there. So all those things kind of come into account. This is what I wanted to talk to you about. I mentioned this before, the number of schools that we apply to. Again, 5 to 7 is probably the ideal. And if you're doing your research and you're really, looking at this, you're going to know which schools are a target, meaning, we got a good opportunity. Which schools to reach. I don't have the GPA. Historically, my scores aren't what they're looking for, but it's a school that I've always been interested in. I'm just going to take a shot. It's good to have one of those, right? And really put a lot of effort into that. And then a school that you can fall back on. If all else fails, I know I'm going to get in here, and I'm all right with going here, right? That's a true safety school. So we ask you to really be thoughtful for a number of reasons. One, there's time and money that goes into these applications, right? Everything has a cost. And if you apply to a dozen schools, can you really put in the thought that goes into these supplemental essay questions that are often required, in addition to the regular essay about why you would like to go to the University of Miami or why Albright University is a fit for you? To do that for a dozen schools seems really, really difficult. To do it for 5 to 7, all right, that's something I can handle. The other thing I'd like you to consider is the fact that by doing that, you're going to make yourself stand out. But not only that, to a degree, right, you should consider your cohort. This is not a trick question. How many schools can you go to after you graduate, folks? My man, say it loud. You can only go to 1, all right? So why would you need to apply to 15? Right? Because you're only going to go to 1. But if you apply to 15 and you get into all 15, again, you're only going to 1. You've taken a spot at 14 schools that could have gone to one of your classmates that really wanted to go to that school. And I'm not saying that you should really think about, well, Johnny wants to go to this school, so I'm not going to apply. But really think about, you know what, is this a school that I want to go to? All right, and if the answer is yes, then apply. But if it's like, I'm just not sure, I don't really think so, why take up a spot? Just throwing that out there, something to consider.
Question.
Yes, sir.
So you just mentioned, so you get to 1, so then the other 14, what happens to that?
What happens to those 14 spots that I've been accepted to 15? Ideally, right, we're going to advise the student, please contact those 14 schools and say that you're no longer interested in attending so that they can release that spot to somebody.
So there's like a second?
Yes, yes. You heard in the first video, the wait list, right? So there's going to be some students where if they get an X number that don't accept the acceptance, they're going to reach out to those wait list students. Other questions? Financially, just be thankful you're not doing it this year. You may have seen it on the news. They keep pushing back the release date for the new financial aid form. I'm really going to refer you to our financial aid night. Each year we have Mr. Ed Zamora, who's an expert in the field, comes, does a fantastic job. We record that, we post it every single year. And at the end of every presentation, he puts his personal cell phone number up there, and you guys can reach out to him at any point in time, and he will help guide you through the process. But we are certainly versed enough to direct you to some scholarship resources, some financial aid resources that you can use, but I'm going to save the majority of that piece for the financial aid night. Okay, so we're in a home stretch here, we're wrapping up a little bit, and I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit more about the philosophy of which type of school you should be applying to, okay? So I'm going to show you a video here. This is Malcolm Gladwell. Some of you may know him. He's an author. Outliers is his probably most well-known work. If you haven't read it, I would recommend it. It's a fantastic book. It has nothing to do with college admissions. But it really is an interesting read. He does a lot of research here, and he talks about why you shouldn't go to Harvard. And I think it's just an interesting premise, just a one viewpoint. You may or may not agree with it, but I'd like you to listen. It's about 8 minutes, but I think it's worth it.
We have a problem in turning out enough science and math graduates, right, in this country. And it's not for lack of interest, by the way, among high school seniors. Lots and lots and lots of high school seniors want to get science and math degrees, but approximately half of them drop out by the end of their second year. So we have a persistence problem in science and math education in this country. So the question is why? Why do so many kids drop out? Well, the obvious answer is that science and math are really hard, and you need to have a certain level of cognitive ability to master those subjects, and we don't have enough smart kids, right? So, if that's true, if science and math education is a function of, we should be able to see in the statistics that persistence is a function of your cognitive ability. I've just chosen Harvard College as a proxy for American colleges for totally random reasons. Harvard is a small liberal arts college in upstate New York. And what we have here is a distribution of math SAT scores among the people who are intending to major in science and math. And what you can see is that there is quite a wide range of native math ability among the kids entering their freshman STEM programs at Harvard. Right? So what do we see when we look at who ends up graduating with a STEM degree? What we see is that at Harvard College, the kids in the top third, with the top third SAT scores, end up getting well over half of the STEM degrees, and the kids with the bottom scores end up getting very few of the STEM degrees. Those kids over there are dropping out like flies. Right? This would seem to suggest that our original hypothesis that persistence is a function of cognitive ability is true. We can also go further. We could say, if this hypothesis is true, as we go to more and more selective institutions, we should see a very different pattern of persistence. We should see less kids dropping out because the kids are all smarter. Right? So let's go to Harvard. These numbers are a few years old, but at Harvard you can see that the bottom third of math SAT scores among kids doing science and math are equal to the top third at Harvard. The dumb students at Harvard are as smart as the smart students at Harvard. So you'd think everybody at Harvard should be getting a math and science degree, right? Why would they drop out? Everyone's so smart. What do we see? Oh dear. What we see is the exact same pattern at Harvard that we saw at Hardwick. The top kids are getting all the degrees. The kids at the bottom aren't getting any degree. They're dropping out like flies, right? Even though these kids are brilliant. Well, clearly what we're seeing here is that persistence in science and math is not simply a function of your cognitive ability. It's a function of your relative standing in your class. It's a function of your class rank, right? Those kids who are really, really brilliant don't get their math degree not because that's a function of their IQ, but as a function of where they are in their class. And by the way, if you look at any college you want, you will always see, regardless of the level of cognitive ability among the students, you will always see the same pattern. The kids who get the science and math degrees are the ones in the top of their class, and the kids in the bottom of their class never do. So the name given to this phenomenon among psychologists is relative deprivation theory. And it describes this exceedingly robust phenomenon, which says that as human beings, we do not form our self-assessments based on our standing in the world. We form our self-assessments based on our standing in our immediate circle, on those in the same boat as ourselves. Right? So a classic example of relative deprivation theory is which countries have the highest suicide rates? Happy countries or unhappy countries? And the answer is happy countries. Right? If you're morbidly depressed in a country where everyone else is really unhappy, you don't feel that unhappy, right? You're not comparing yourself to the universe, the whole universe of people out there. No, you're comparing yourself to your neighbors and the kids at school, and they're unhappy too, so you're sort of fine. But if you're morbidly depressed in a country where everyone is jumping up and down for joy, you are really depressed, right? That is a very, very, very profoundly serious place to be. And so, as a result, you get that sad outcome more often. So what's happening at Harvard then is the kid in the bottom third of his class at Harvard does not say, rationally, I am in the 99.99th percentile of all students in the world when it comes to native math ability, even though that's true. What that kid says is, that kid over there, Johnny over there, is getting all the answers right, and I'm not. I feel like I'm really stupid, and I can't handle math, so I'm going to drop out, get a fine arts degree, move to Brooklyn, make $15,000 a year, and break my parents' heart, right? So what is the implication of this? The implication of this is that if you want to get a science and math degree, don't go to Harvard, right? In fact, we can run the numbers on this. Mitchell Chang at UCLA recently did the numbers, and he says, as a rule of thumb, your odds of graduating, persisting, successfully getting a science and math degree fall by 2 percentage points for every 10-point increase in the average SAT score of your peers. So if you're a kid and you have a choice between and University of Maryland is your safety. University of Maryland has 150, on average, SAT scores are 150 points lower at Maryland. That means your chance of graduating with a STEM degree from Maryland is 30% higher than it would be at Harvard, right? Now, so if you choose to go to Harvard and not Maryland, you are taking an enormous gamble. You're essentially saying, this STEM degree, by the way, the most valuable commodity any college graduate can have in today's economy, I am going to take a 30% gamble in my chances of getting that degree, just so I can put Harvard on my resume. Is that worth it? I don't think so. When it comes to confidence and motivation and self-efficacy, the things that really matter when it comes to making your way in the world, relative position matters more than absolute position. The 80th percentile student at Harvard looks at those kids who are smarter than him and says, I can't do it. The number one student at Missouri says, wow, I am Lord of the Manor. I'm going to go out and conquer the world, right? So what does it mean? Well, what it means, first of all, when it comes to hiring, it means you should hire on the basis of class rank. And you should be completely indifferent to the institution attended by the applicant. In fact, we should have a don't ask, don't tell policy for the name of your undergraduate institution. It's hurting us to know that. It doesn't help us. And when you hear some institution, some fabulous Wall Street investment bank, some university say, we only hire from the top schools, you should say, you moron, hire from the top students from any school under the sun. And it also means that when it comes, if you have kids going to college, when it comes to choosing your undergraduate institution, you should never go to the best institution you get into. Never. Go to your second or your third choice. Go to the place where you're guaranteed to be in the top part of your class. So why don't we do that? Well, why did I come here when it was profoundly in my self-interest not to, right? Because when we have an opportunity to join elite institutions, we are so enormously flattered and pleased with ourselves that we do things that are irrational. We have a problem in turning out enough science and math graduates.
Okay, so a couple things here. I kept saying the word persistence, right? the ability to stick with it, to continue through, to earn your degree. If you look at the New Jersey performance reports for our school, you'll find that 16 months after graduation, we have nearly 90% of our students still enrolled at a college or university. That's among the highest in the state. All right, so what does that mean? You guys, I'm talking to the students now, you're prepared, you're going to go there, and you have the tools to succeed and to continue and to persist and earn your degree. But the other thing he's really talking about here is fit, right? There is a phenomenon, the rear windshield phenomenon, right, that exists, where some people want to get the best sticker imaginable on that rear window. Yale, Fordham, UConn, that must be the black sheep of the family, went to a public school, all right? So look, we're really encouraging you to find the best fit possible. Try to resist the temptation to chase the name, because there is a belief among some students that if you get into the big brand name school, you have reached the mountaintop. Life does not get any better than that, all right? You are set, and I'm here to tell you, and I may be the first person that tells you this, and I'm sorry if I am, all right? That once you get to that mountaintop, I promise you there's going to be another mountain that you're going to have to get to, all right? And once you get to the top of that one, there's always going to be another one, okay? So think about this long term. Okay? What is the best school that it fits me, my needs, whether it's financial, whether it's academic, that sets me up for long-term success so that I can keep climbing mountain after mountain after mountain and to continue to achieve. So just we'll leave you with that, all right, as you go out and embark on your college search process. Thank you all for coming tonight. If you have some questions, come on down, and we'll see you, and hopefully you can go outside and get more.